Hi friends, I'm Sam and I'm currently doing an MPhil, a Masters at the University of Cambridge, studying evolution of cichlid fish. I, however, didn't do my undergrad here. I did my undergrad in London at MPhil, and today I know how you feel. But the point of this video isn't to sit here and mull over and be depressed. But the point of this video is for me to give you some tips on how you can make the most of your 4 years of undergrad and put yourself in the best position at the end of your first degree to continue into research here or on the other side of the country. Anyway, the best place to start would be with what the first thing you need to do is, and that's to find what it is that matters to you. Now, I've mentioned this in other videos, but really doing a master's is about carving out your niche in your subject. So for me, that's the evolution of fish and how their skulls change over time. Whatever it may be, your undergrad is the best time to find out what that thing is. I've said before, personally, my recommendation would be to read and to read and to read and to read until eventually you've found a topic that you've read every element of and you want to know more, but no one's written it down yet. And you want to be the person who writes it down. But there's a few other things you can do to make that even easier in your undergrad and use the resources you've been provided by the institution you're going to be a part of this fall. And that's your lecturers. My advice to you would be to, 1, make sure you go to every single lecture, seminar and lab. That's the bare minimum. What you want to then be doing is every single lecture, try to ask questions. You can always do this after the lecture finishes when everyone else has filed out the lecture hall. But the point of this is to expand your knowledge and to build a rapport with your lecturers. Now this is twofold. First of all, it's going to help you with your understanding of your subject. But second of all, and arguably more importantly, it's going to provide you an academic point of call within your department. Now this is useful for a multitude of reasons. 1, it provides you the opportunity to get some research experience, and 2, you're going to need 2 references at the end of your degree in order to apply for postgrad anywhere, and you've just found yourself one of them. Now, your academic point of call doesn't necessarily need to be someone who's lectured you. It could just be someone whose research you're really interested in. You get in touch with them, ping them an email really early on, and just ask if you can have coffee with them. Frankly, most people love chatting about whatever it is that they do, not least because they don't necessarily get that opportunity very often. Academics can sometimes be quite insular or only talk to people who are already within their field. It's nice for them to have the opportunity to just have a chat sometimes. So once you've carved out your niche, the first thing you're going to want to do is to work out whether you want to do a taught or research-based masters. Both Oxford and Cambridge offer master's degrees called MPhils. Confusingly, they're split into 2 subcategories, but they don't necessarily say it on the tin. Basically, the fundamental difference here, taught masters, you're going to be examined through coursework as well as potentially dissertation. You're going to have lectures and seminars. A research-based degree like the one I'm doing, you won't have any taught content. You should be choosing which kind of degree you want to go on to do based on your career aim. The most fundamental difference with regards to your application though between the two is that if you want to apply for a research-based masters, you will need to find a supervisor at Cambridge who studies the topic you want to study, and you're going to have to apply to their lab. So that's how you work out what you want to study. You are also going to need to spend time during your undergrad building up a competitive application. Now I'll get onto the actual logistics of applying later on, and I have made a separate video on that, which is here. But how do you build a competitive application? Well, the main priority is building a good statement of purpose. It's your personal statement. Now, what your statement of purpose constitutes is your intention to study, your academic experience, your work experience, and other stuff that makes you well-rounded. With regards to your academic experience, you're going to be talking about potentially things you have studied that are relevant to the course you're applying to, as well as any cool projects you've been part of. Now, this bit is far more relevant if you're applying for a research-based master's. A really important thing to remember when you're going through this application process is that during your undergraduate degree, you will have been given the opportunity to do projects, whether that's long-form study like a 4-week research project, maybe you've had to do a meta-analysis at some point in time, or you've done group projects. These are the things that prove you've got experience. There's a reason you've done them. So that's your academic stuff out the way. Next thing you want to talk about is work experience. How do you get work experience? Well, you probably need to get internships, or you may have the opportunity to work with some researchers at some point in their lab. For the former, internships, in order to get competitive internships, you need to apply early. You can do internships and spring weeks in your first year, and you should apply then. Now, it is worth applying to as many as possible because you are going to be competing against people who have far more experience than you. But spring weeks generally designed for people in their first year. Keep an eye out for those. Generally, they are all closed by Christmas time. Get your applications in October. An early application will often mean that you're more likely to get an interview. That's great. Then in your second year, similarly, make sure that you keep applying for those competitive internships. You will be rejected from loads of them. It will hurt, but eventually you will get one. Keep an eye out also for startups as well as big companies, especially if those startups are working working within the field that you want to go into, because you can double it up as some research experience as well as work experience. Now, maybe you're not a fan of going for the corporate life and you want to just do some good old academic research experience. How do you do that? Well, there are a couple of programs that run around the country. For example, Imperial College London run the Europe, the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Programme. You can apply to it even if you don't go to Imperial. For this, a lot of researchers will post projects that they're advertising for, but you can also just contact academics and ask them if they would have the space in their lab to host you for the summer. They also run at various other places around the country. Worth looking into like societies that are associated with your study, because generally a lot of them tend to run summer camps where you can just get more exposure to research. Final option is to just contact academics who work at your university. A lot of the time they'd like a helping hand for the summer. It might mean that you don't get paid and you work for free for a few weeks, but the experience you get is completely invaluable, and it's that which is going to separate you from other people who are applying. And that final stuff, the extracurricular stuff, you can run a club or society, or at least get on the committee for one of these. They are an awesome opportunity to show that you're good at time management, because you can still manage to get good grades and be running something else. My best tip for building a good statement of purpose really is to just know what you want to do in the future, have a clear career path, and then you can build all of these opportunities, your work experience, research experience, what you're doing in your free time around getting to that goal. You will have to say what your career goals are on your application. It's useful to know and then be able to back up what you want to do with stuff you've done. And then finally, the last bit of this whole like prep and autumn application part is you've got to focus on your grades during your degree. Some courses will only take you if you're in the top 5% of your cohort for your undergraduate degree, and therefore it's necessary that you get a really high average throughout your time. My intention is to put together a number of videos, one on how you can write great essays and get really high grades in those, one on how you can present really well with regards to academic presentation, and a final one on how to put together a really good dissertation. But in the meantime, one thing you can do is make sure that whenever you get your grades back, if they are not satisfactory to you, go and ask someone about what you could have done better, and try to surround yourself with people who achieve well, and see if you can look at their essays when they finish them and they've got them back and they've got good grades, because the best way to learn how to write a good essay is to read good essays. When it actually comes down to applying for your course though, there's a few logistical differences between this and your undergrad. First is that you make separate applications to institutions. There is no UCAS. They have a tendency to charge. They shouldn't do that, but they do, so that's worth considering, that therefore you can't necessarily put in too many applications. I only applied to 3 places because it's quite expensive sometimes to apply. It's worth mentioning that unlike an undergraduate, you're not applying to a college to study a subject, you're applying to the department to study a subject. You do have to choose colleges and you do have to rank them, but if you get an offer from the department, then no matter what, you are going to get into a college. It is worth listing your colleges based upon funding available within those colleges. Some colleges have bursaries available for people studying humanities, like St John's here in Cambridge. Some have bursaries available for postgraduates studying science, for example, Trinity Hall. If you want to get access to that funding though, you're going to need to apply in the January of the year you're starting. And really, I just hope some of that helps. Coming here or to Oxford isn't the be all and end all. It's not going to define you for the rest of your life. The only thing that defines you is, frankly, how hard you work, the opportunities you make for yourself. Yeah, perhaps you won't already have a foot in the door because some nepotist went to the same college as you, but what you can have is undeniable brilliance, and all that takes is a good work ethic and passion. If you're interested in just general study tips, don't forget to subscribe wherever that lives. Frankly, it's probably going to appear here. Yeah, I guess. Cool. Just stay curious, friends, and I'll see you next time. Ta-ra.